Welcome to More Than a Parent, a podcast exploring who we are and what we want outside of being a parent, so we can create an integrated lifestyle with impact both in and out of our homes. I'm Kaz Gaddis, and I invite you to join me to be your more, live your and. Welcome to More Than a Parent. I'm Kaz Gaddis, a personal power coach for parents, specifically moms who are wanting to live their more, be their and. What that means specifically is that I coach moms intentionally to create inner aligned lifestyles that energize both their presence as parents and also actualize who they are in their personal power. So what's important about this episode is this is pure power, guys. Before I even go into that piece, let me share with you a little bit about, I guess, everything going on. So we are obviously in a pandemic globally as a community. We are feeling it in all sorts of ways. There's a lot of different energies going around, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term empath. Usually it's someone that, not usually, but what it is it's someone who kind of feels all the feels, not just their own, but of others. And I think I underestimated how much of an empath I am, because up until last week, for a few days, I was feeling almost paralyzed. I was feeling all the feels going on globally, going on in the community, in other communities that I'm part of moms, everybody. This is affecting everyone. And so I was in a place where it wasn't like I was depressed. I've been there before, I know what that feels like. It was more of paralyzed by the feelings and then just kind of going through the motions of the day. If you resonate with this, if you've ever been in a situation like that, you know it is, you can get lost in that, right? Like you can just continue to go just through the motions instead of showing up. And so I allowed myself to have a space of feeling that, of being in that for a few days, because it obviously needed to come out. And so I did that piece, and then I told myself, okay, cool. I've been here before where I've allowed myself to feel something for a certain amount of time. And what is the next thing now, right? Because when we are feeling paralyzed, especially how easily that is as moms, as parents in this time that we're in, we have a choice. So feel the feels so that they are felt and not just continue to be submerged, because they will pop up again, and likely in situations and in ways that you prefer them not to. But looking like, okay, cool. So my choices are, I can stay paralyzed. I can stay in just going through the motions in a way that's not serving anyone, especially not yourself. And then you're adding to the noise of the things that aren't serving anybody. Or I can choose to allow that fear to fuel my power. And so be empowered in that pause, right? So that pause to feel the things, that pause to then be like, in a place of reflection for what is possible. And so I started to choose, obviously, to be empowered in that. And I was able to not only connect more to myself. When you have moments that you allow yourself to have higher consciousness and you kind of flex that higher awareness in yourself, you're also able to see more potential, more possibilities, more opportunity. And so I thought, okay, cool. So what is the next best thing in the situation? How can I be part of something that empowers somebody else, especially if you're feeling in any way, shape, or form anxious or fear-filled or paralyzed, just in all the things, right? And so I reached out over the last week and a half. I reached out to several moms that I know, and then I also opened it up to the greater community to share some productivity tips, and I'll also be doing another episode with self-care tips. And so with this episode being the productivity one, we are in a place now where most of us are home with our kids. We're having to figure out homeschool like we've never had to do before. We're also having to be productive by either bringing our work home with us if we were working from out of the house, or now our business and our normal flow may be looking different with everybody at the house. there's a lot of incomes being lost. There is a lot of different uncertainties going on, right? But amidst it all, there is, if you choose to see it, there is possibility, there is opportunities, there is a moment to regather, to reframe for yourself, for your family, and then what does that mean like overall, right? So I asked these moms to share tips on either productivity or on self-care that could really serve us right now during this pandemic that we're in, because that way we can start contributing voices of empowerment, of possibility, versus just hearing a lot of the negative pieces, which some of it is definitely real, but we don't have to fully focus on that. Otherwise, it consumes us in a negative way. And again, not that it's wrong to feel quote unquote negative emotions. I don't believe in negativity. I really believe that those things, I call it, a certain group of us, we call it catabolic energy, which is just a type of energy that can fuel you. You have to feel it. It's part of being human, but you don't have to be sucked into the kind of like the winding piece of it consuming you in a bad way. So anywho, so for the resources shared today, this is going to be an interesting podcast. We're going to have a bunch of people joining us and sharing with us productivity for the now, productivity for this uncertainty that we're in. If you go to kazgaddis.com, that's CAZGADDIS.com, /podcast, you'll see all of it there. And specifically for this episode, if you go to kazgaddis.com /E009, that's for episode 009, that'll be the one here that we're going to be sharing on productivity. In that website, we'll also have the show notes as far as everyone's information. They all are sharing different freebies, different resources that'll all be available for you there. And there is a mega download with a bunch of everything that everyone is sharing. I'm calling it More Than a Parent Roundup Guide. So you'll be able to access that there. Before going into and sharing everyone else, I did want to also share mine, share some of the tips that I have. As you see, I have a piece of paper. If you're watching us on video, but if you're on the podcast, you didn't even see that piece of paper. What paper? Anyway, so I wanted to share a few insights that have helped me. I have been working from home actually the last about 3 years. Specifically, the last year I've been working from home with both of the kids. So that's like a new perspective. And then with my youngest being 6 months and my oldest being 2 years old, I normally do have part-time daycare. That is no longer. And so sharing some tips that may help you regardless of your kids' ages, but I just wanted to share with you the perspective of where I'm coming from in my life experience, so that if you're in that area, you can know that it's possible to have some other things to support you in this time. So the first thing that I just want to share first and foremost, there we go, is self-compassion. As parents who do all the things, here we are now having to truly do all the things in a whole new way than we ever probably thought we had to. Yeah, there's no choice right now. It's like you just have to. Now there's a choice in how you show up to that though, right? And we'll be talking about that in a little bit here. One thing that really helps me is when I'm getting on a call or a meeting or going on and moving into a next, whatever it is that you do. Sometimes life can be crazy, especially now with everyone home. And it's reframes. It's a 1 minute reframe. And literally I'll sometimes do this on the call or the meeting with the other person. It's literally a timer. You put on a timer for 60 seconds. You invite everyone to just, for 60 seconds, just kind of chill, just pause, just be in the moment. And it kind of brings a new air into the space to that you're allowing yourself to arrive into that moment versus all the balancing and the behind the scenes stuff that had to happen in order for that moment to come to place for you to be on this call. Especially if you have more littles at home, it can be fun. So anyway, that's one thing that really helps me. And then there's also this notion of the range of engagement. What that is, and I actually learned that when I was at in my coach training program through IPEC, shout out, is it's called the range of engagement. And I'll have this also in that guide that you can download. so you can see it visually on there. But basically, think of there being 4 steps. There are 4 different options. We can go from I won't do this, which there's no power behind that, there's no choice, to okay, well, I have to do this, which is something that feels forced. It's something that you still feel limited because there's no choice but to have to do it, right? Because like we have to homeschool right now, or we have to stay home right now, whatever that have to may feel like to you. But you can also move into need to, which is still lower power, but it's mostly at choice. Like, you kind of quote unquote should, or it has to get done, but I need to do it. Like it has to need to do, right? And then the most powerful choice that you can make in the way that you're approaching things right now, whatever it may be in your life, is a place of choosing to. This is like the high power way to approach something that has to get done, or that you are wanting to choose to be in this moment. And that's total choice. I choose. And so the energy from going to like, well, I have to do this versus I choose to do this is very different. So I wanted to share that. Yes, it's a languaging thing, but it really is also an energy thing. So as you are showing up in the different ways that your life is asking you to right now, you can either say, okay, cool, well, I have to do that, or you know what, I do choose to do this, and I choose to show up in this way to do so. Something else that really helps me is this is not going to sound like a very much of a tip because you have to experience it, and so once you do, you're going to be like, really? It's surrender. I did not have surrender in my vocabulary in my life whatsoever until I became pregnant with my first baby with Skyland 2 years ago. Well, technically more than that, 2 years plus 10 months. And surrender helps me be in flow. There is so much surrender, whether you're self-employed or an employee of someone, or you work for yourself, or you're a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home parent. Surrender will allow you to have more flow and to not feel as tense in the world that we're in right now. Integration versus balance. Balance does not exist. Because there is no way that, unless, I mean, if you're that person, please let me know. But I have never been able to do something every day the same exact way, because there's factors outside of me. And even within myself, right? There's still factors within you that can change. And so integration, especially right now, as we are having everything integrated under one roof in a whole new way than most of the world usually does, is really important. And having a surrender in that, right? There could be certain goals that you have, but also having looser expectations of how and when that gets done will allow you to still reach those goals. The last piece is flex the fun. Well, Kaz, there's a lot going on right now. How does the fun, have to do with it? Well, it's like having humor in life. Like I have some awkward humor sometimes, but that's what's allowed me to cope with life and allowed me to move through things that otherwise could make me maybe feel a whole different way and maybe paralyze me from, taking action in a whole other way. And so there's a few different ways to have that fun. There's the playing with your kids. My kids are younger, and so there's still playtime with them throughout my entire day. And that playtime with them actually refuels me. It helps me take a break from what I'm doing and, then get back to it when I'm ready to. But also I found that there's a way to integrate what you need to do on the productive side with your kids. So when I've had some podcasts, my 2-year-old is right next to me sometimes, and she sees me put on my headset. I actually have a little headset for her, and she has my wireless, it's actually right next to me, that's why I was looking over. She has my wireless keyboard. And so I set her up with her iPad, and I set her up with her little wireless keyboard and her little headphones. And she acts like she's playing, right? She's imagining also doing what mommy's doing. And that might not be for everybody. That's how it shows up in the example in my life. And it's being able to quote unquote co-work or emulate play and work together allows me to share with her, right? And invite her into my world versus being like that video that's circulating the internet of the guy being interviewed, I think on BBC, and his kids come into the room and they're trying to drag them out. It's very funny. I'll post it in. I'll post it in because if you haven't seen it, it's very funny. But with that being said, it's just build fun into your day, build fun not just into your work side, but your play side with your family. When you bring your kids along the journey, they're learning things that it's not just entertaining them and busy work or whatever. You're helping them teach, you're helping them learn life skills or life experiences, and you don't know how that's going to manifest later in their life, right? The last thing that I will also share in that More Than a Parent Roundup guide is my husband and I have a process we go through every week. And even if sometimes it doesn't get into the written form, there is a process. Sometimes we just verbalize it because we're on the go. But it's going to be some quick tips on how to look at what your family flow plan is for the week. Right? There's this is more on like, what do you need to do that requires your 100% attention, that you then need to know what support is needed for that. So my husband and I, we share a Google Calendar. And so like when I'm on a podcast, especially now that he's home, he can help a little bit more in that case versus when he's online, that's funny. When he's on set filming, is I'll actually block what time I need him to be present with the kids or just be on a kid watch when they're sleeping, so that I can make sure that I'm present for either a client session or a podcast interview that I'm doing, if he's available, right? And so having those conversations at the beginning of the week will help it feel less reactive during the week. So those are my productivity tips that I wanted to share. We have a whole bunch more for you in store here. Again, if you go to the show notes, there's a guide there. It also will let you know who's coming up on this roundup and at what times, so that if by chance you want to kind of skip around and listen to certain things, depending on what will best serve you at this very moment, you can do so. And of course, you can listen to the full thing as well. And I hope that this impacts you in a positive way. I hope that this empowers you, lets you know that it's possible and that it's possible for you. And just thank you for listening in, because you are part of the reason, you are the reason I'm doing this, and you're part of the reason that I'm stepping up in front of the microphone in moments that I could choose not to. Right? This is all choice. So thank you for who you are. Thank you for who you're being. And yeah, I hope that this serves you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Leach, and I am a blogger and coach at momincombatboots.com. I have two amazing kids, Jordan, who's 6, and Elijah, who's 4. As parents during COVID-19, we're navigating through uncharted waters. Many of us are home for the first time, working from home, our kids are home from school, and maybe our spouse or significant other's home as well. And this can increase our anxiety and our stress throughout the day. So I wanted to share with you 3 tips for maintaining productivity while being a present parent. Tip number 1, create a schedule. Kids thrive on schedules and routines, so creating something that can be replicated throughout the week allows your child to know what's expected for that day and what's going to happen. We maintain a list that's on a whiteboard, and every day we write down what's going to happen that day, and we don't assign times to it unless it is a scheduled event that my daughter may have with her teacher. Tip number 2, we plan in free time into our schedule as well. So I plan free time throughout the day so that the kids can unwind from some of the work and have a little bit of time to play. They're not playing at school with friends anymore, so now we're building that into their schedule. And this also allows me to be able to transition between different activities, be able to make them snacks, or get a little bit of work done in between as well. I also schedule a 2-hour break throughout the day that allows them to either take a nap or have a quiet time. This provides me my time to get work done as well as any self-care that I need that day. Tip number 3, schedule family time. So I schedule family time at the end of the day, every day after dinner. We either do something together as a family, or we'll have one-on-one time with each child individually. This allows us to unwind from the day. We were teachers all day, and now we're coming together with our family or with our kids as their parent. And so now we're unwinding from all the activities and all the structure that we had that day, and now we're able to do something fun, whether that be playing a board game, playing family hide and seek, or just reading a book together. So we have that one-on-one time or that family time at the end of the day. So those are my 3 tips for how we maintain our productivity throughout the day. And just to recap, tip number 1 is to create a schedule. Tip number 2 is to plan in your free time. And tip number 3 is to schedule family time. This has helped us tremendously in maintaining productivity within our family, and I hope that it helps you. Thank you so much, Kaz, for giving me this opportunity to share my tips with you and your community.
Hi, I just want to say life is too short to be taken too seriously, so let's play. I'm Beverly Beck, and I'm the founder of happylittlehumans.com. I am a creative educator, a speaker, and a facilitator. I utilize art and play to grow happy little humans. So I primarily work with children that are aged 3 to 6, whether that be cognitively or chronologically. And I have 3 top tips for you today. The first one is to stay productive at home is to hydrate, whether that be yourself and your kids, and both are super important. Water, obviously, best. So keep drinking lots and lots of water. The second one would be to get outside, to move, whether that be for your own sanity, or to keep the kids occupied and keep their little minds ticking over and burn off some of that steam that they're going to be cooped up in the house for the foreseeable. The third one would be the little setup that I would use if I have a specific thing I need to do, whether that be 20 to 40 minutes where I need to cook some dinner, or I need to go on a business call, or anything like that when I need to do something that is basically for me and I do not want to be disturbed. Doesn't always work, but most of the time, yes, it's great. But what I would do would either be set up 4 corners of the map so that you have 4 different activities, whether that be Lego or Play-Doh or cars or whatever your kids are interested in, and so that they can spend 5 minutes at each and rotate. So that gives you a good 20 minutes, depending on their age. The other thing I would do was, my kids are age 3, 5, and 6. So I would give them each a little tray, and on each of those things put age appropriate stuff. So today I actually used torches and little sensory toys, where little squishy toys, so they could play with those. What else did I use? Lego and some little tangle toys and threading. So if you don't have any threading or anything at home, all you need is a bit of thick card, a hole punch, punch a few holes, and take a lace out of a pair of shoes. Easy peasy. If you don't have any Lego at home, think of all the toilet roll holders that you have and try and get them to build a big tower. If you don't have any sensory toys at home, think about a sandwich bag and hair gel, shaving foam, anything like that. Stick it in a bag, put a bit of masking tape or painter's tape on top, and hey presto, there you go. 20 to 40 minutes on your own to do whatever you need to do.
Hi everybody, I'm Christine Horstman. I'm the owner of Paper Doll Communication. I am a certified professional coach, a certified career coach, and an accredited disc trainer. So I wanted to visit with you guys today with this productivity roundup, now that we're all shifting into working from home, homeschooling, having a lot of people doing all this in our house at the same time. I love this idea that we're kind of pulling together tips for everybody. First, I want to share my #1 productivity tip that I tell people all the time, and it's called one thing, first thing. That's the rule. What is your most critical thing you've got to accomplish today, your most important thing? Have that clear in your mind, get it done, knock it out. And I think this is really helpful because first, it just gets you into a kind of accomplishment, take charge mindset. And it also allows you to pivot if the day starts to unfold in challenging ways. If Zoom starts flaking out, your kid's having trouble with their online program or their worksheet or whatever the heck the case may be. So that's one thing. The second thing is I want to tell you not to try to be superwoman or super dad, superman. There's a lot of helpful things going on right now, but some of that in and of itself can be anxiety producing. When you see someone else who's like, we just made homemade muffins and the children have learned the alphabet and now we're on to mathematics and et cetera, right? And you're like, we're still in our pajamas. So that's okay. Be you, do you. This is a time of like no other, where every family has to trust their own instincts, and it's okay. What works for them might not work for you. What I want to tell you is 2 little tips for the little guys Give them 30 minutes of uninterrupted playtime that is of their choosing. I read this somewhere when my son was little. He's now a teenager. He's a freshman in high school. And I cannot tell you how magical this 30-minute, not anything they wanted, uninterrupted, let me do all the other things I needed to do later. You might need to do this maybe 2 times a day with this age group being home so much. For the teens, drop everything when they want to talk to you, because if your teens are like mine, they're living in their room right now. They're sulking. This stinks for them with their friends. They want to be with their friends more than their family, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. But drop it. When they want to talk, listen. They want to play a song. You can't stand it. Listen. Last night, we forced family time. We're going to sit and have dinner. He didn't want to play a game. He didn't watch a movie. We had kind of an uncomfortable silence. Finally, he started talking about how weird this is. How long is this going to last? Give them processing time. Be okay with some uncomfortable silences. And I want to leave you with this story. My son has learning differences, and we're trying to figure all this out, some delays and learning issues when he was 5. I was coming off of thyroid cancer and a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. I was struggling as a mama to have the energy to take care of him. It was deeply painful. And I had a lot of guilt about it. I had people telling me some of his delays were because I was babying him, because I did feel bad about having been sick. That wasn't the case, but you can imagine that was difficult psychologically for me. When I was with the psychotherapist who had assessed him for dyslexia and all of that good stuff, I was in tears, already sort of like the guilt and the fear was coming out. And she said, this isn't, you couldn't have prevented this. This was going to happen neurologically. Doesn't matter if you were sick or not. And I bursted into tears and said, I just haven't felt like a good mother, right? I haven't been able to do my job as a mom. And she said to me, when you're really sick, does he have something to eat? Yes. Yes, he does. He always gets fed, and he can get his little yogurt out of the fridge if he has to, etc. He was really little. Is he clothed? Yeah. Sometimes it may have been clothed in pajamas. Sometimes he was fully dressed. Is he safe and with a roof over his head? Yes. Well, that's it. You've done your job as a parent. When you are sick and you are unwell, you are required to do the minimum. That's what she told me, and I can't tell you how freeing that was. So I'm going to give you permission to some days do the minimum, because this is a big juggle right now. It's uncharted territory for pretty much every family. Well, I was going to say like the US, the world, right? We're in uncharted territory. You are not going to feel your best. You are not going to want to talk to another person some days. You want to pull inward. So give yourself permission to do what it takes. And then when you're ready again, practice that pause with giving your kids some undivided attention. So that's my best advice, and I hope you found it helpful. Thanks, guys.
Well, there you have it. We just had a bunch of amazing humans share with you different productivity tips, insights, techniques, tools that have helped them be able to figure out this new level of productivity with having everyone in the house. I hope that this serves you. Again, a reminder that the More Than a Parent Roundup guide is on kazgaddis.com/E009. There you can download the guide itself, have everyone's information, including the different freebies that they share, and as well as mine that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I appreciate you. I am wishing you nothing but the best during this time of mega transition and mega integration in our lives. And while it may not feel like it sometimes, you totally got this.
Thanks for listening to this episode of More Than a Parent. To be your more, live your and. Continue the conversation and connect at facebook.com/groups/More Than a Parent.